Hey, Leland with Benchmark Vehicles, and we're getting into the winter months, so we're here to talk about winterizing your Benchmark van. It is an easy process. There are a few steps. We do outline each step pretty clearly in our owner's manual, which each and every one of you have, that comes with the finished van. But it is always a lot easier to just walk you through it in person. So we're doing a video today to just show you exactly the steps that you need to take if you need to winterize your van. You may ask, why do I want to winterize my van? Well, if you are planning on leaving your van somewhere parked outside in winter, you're going to Hawaii for 2 weeks and the van's just going to be parked outside, there's really no reason to leave all your systems on, freeze prevention, heat, and have to worry about it while you're out of town. So the best practice is just to winterize it. So I'm going to start in the back here. We're going to jump to the front. When you're doing this process, you're going to kind of move from the back of the van to the front of the van. If you have an onboard air compressor, it makes it a lot easier to just log on to your Switch Pros app, turn on the air compressor when you need it. The air is used to purge the water out of the lines. So that'll be involved within this sort of, I'd say it's a 10-step process, but really there's three or four main steps to follow. So the first step is going to be to drain the fresh tank. And I usually like to pre-plan for this. If I know I'm going to winterize the van, I'll just open it. If I'm out running errands, going around somewhere for the day, I'll open up that fresh tank, just let it drain out, let all the water splash out, and just, manage it that way. So it's a really good idea if you're pre-winterizing, planning to shock treat the fresh tank, and it's easy to do. You can order a freshwater tank shock treatment fluid that fills right into the freshwater tank. You let that slosh around, drain it out, give it a quick rinse with a bit more fresh water, and then you're ready to sort of put your van to bed for the winter, the water system, that is. So yes, we're going to start by draining the fresh tank here. And all of our vans have a stainless steel tank. It's 35 gallons. It is always in place with a spare tire. And there is always a quarter turn valve that will drain out the fresh water. So that's what we're going to do first. So like I said, if you have the ability to just sort of do this while you're out running around, you're not going to have to wait for 20 minutes or so for the freshwater tank to drain out. If you do have the chance to do the shock treatment on the fresh tank, that's a benefit. If not, you can just drain it. You can put it into a bucket. You can do it out on the sidewalk. There's not a lot of water in this tank right now, so it's not going to take much time. Once the tank is fully drained, we're going to drain the hot water tank. If you do have an ISO-temp hot water tank within the van, a lot of our older vans will be just a on-demand system, so you'll skip the next step in this process and you'll just be draining this freshwater tank. So once that freshwater tank is fully drained, and you do have an ISO-temp tank, and you'll want to drain the ISO-temp. I'm going to move a bucket. Usually you'd just be doing this outside, but I'll put it under the drain for the ISO-temp. All right, so we're in the back of the van here, and if you do have an ISO-temp tank, you're going to want to take advantage of this step that I'm going to explain. It's very easy. So we have a drain on the ISO-temp tank. Whenever you have water in the system's pressurized. This tank has got about 4.7 gallons of water. So it will take a few minutes to drain out. Again, if you're out and about for the day, drain the fresh tank and this at the same time, go about your business, and then start the winterizing process when you get home. So I'm just gonna open that up, we're gonna drain it. The water pump is off at this point. During the winterizing process for draining the tanks, we always want the water pump off. And just a little bit of advice, I always try to remind people when they're out driving their vans, pre-destination, just keep that water pump off. There's absolutely no reason why your water pump needs to be on and your system pressurized when you're rolling down the highway. Let's say there was a crack or whatever, anything happens and your water pump's running and maybe it's pushing water all throughout the van, which could not be so much fun. So a little bit of advice there, but drain that fresh water, drain the ISO-temp tank right here. It's just a quarter turn and it clicks when it's open and draining, and that water will just pour out straight to the bottom. We run the drain from the tank right down through the bottom of the floor, and it comes out just kind of right around that rear passenger side wheel. So we just went over the back of the van. So those are the first couple steps that need to happen when you're winterizing your van. You always want to make sure that the water pump is off. And if you have your control panel, it may be down lower, it may be here. You're going to make sure that water pump is on here. we're going to turn it off. So we're not pushing water through the system, we're not pressurizing the system. We're going to pressurize the system on our own with our onboard air compressor, and that's just going to push water and air through the lines to purge everything out. So I always open up the sink faucet here, and you can kind of set it in the middle so you're getting both hot and cold sides. And then when we're pushing air through the system, we're going to kind of cycle back and forth, full hot, full cold. If your van is equipped with a dedicated freshwater filter filler here, you're just going to leave that open. And then probably the most important step, and you're going to check this a few times throughout the process, is the water filter. And it may be a little hard to see down here, but whenever you have a guzzle H2O system in your van, that will be the low point in the system. So that's the low point in the pressurized system. So there's the filter housing. It's plastic. It's going to be the first thing to crack if you do freeze your van. So we want to make sure that we unthread that filter housing and dump the water out into your sink. I'll sometimes put a rag down below because the filter will be full of water. So just to catch a little bit of spillage, but if you're careful, you can do it without spilling. So just dump that out. I'll just leave the carbon filter in the sink for now. Now we're empty. Guzzle's very smart. They say, do not let this freeze, it will crack. And yes, it will crack very quickly. So let's thread that back on. This is open, the sink is open. If your van is equipped with an interior shower, you're going to want to make sure that the interior fixture is open as well. And you can do this into the sink, you can put it right down the drain. I'm just going to set this in our shower pan. So right now we have our sink hot cold, or cold filtered water filler, and our shower fully open. So we're going to go to the back of the van and connect our air compressor and start pushing some water out. Let's go. All right, so we're in the garage and we're going to connect our air compressor line, but first we're just going to close off the drain valve on our ISO temp. And if you leave that open, you're just going to blow air straight out to the ground. So we want to close that off, so that way we're pushing water and air out of the hot water tank. Next step is just to grab your onboard air, connect it to a Schrader valve fitting that we have within the systems case. Every van, whether it has an ISO temp or it's an on-demand system, will have this blowout valve in it. If you have an older van that maybe is 5 or 6 years old and this wasn't included in your van, bring it back. We'll put one of these in at no cost, and just makes life a little bit easier for winterizing. So connect that compressor here, and there's an isolation valve here, a shut-off valve. It's a quarter turn valve, and we'll just give that a slow turn. You can hear the air and water flowing through the lines. I can hear the sink purging some water, mostly air out, and I'll just like to monitor that. I'll keep an eye on the Switch Pros app. If something's wrong, I can turn the air compressor off within the app. Right now I'm just seeing air, a couple drops of water come out. So what I'm going to do at this point is just turn off that isolation valve. You can shut off your air compressor, and we'll go to the front of the van. And this is the sort of final step in the process. We're just going to check that guzzle filter one more time, because that will fill back up with water, and we're going to want to dump it one more time before we proceed. So let's hop in the front. All right, so we've already pushed a bunch of air and water through the system. I'm going to check the water filter housing one more time, because it will fill up with a bit more water. We're just going to check that, make sure we don't have any residual water in there. It's just a little bit, not much, but good to get that out of there. That's back on, valves are still open. We'll go to the back of the van, and one more time, just flip on the air compressor and push the rest of the water out of the system, and then that's a wrap. All right, so we're just gonna open up the air line one more time with the quarter turn valve here. And I'm just mostly getting air in the front of the van. You're gonna wanna cycle between hot and cold while you're pushing air out to really get the hot side of the plumbing drained as well as the cold side. Just go back and forth, let it fully push all of the water out of the system. And then do the same thing with the rear sprayer in the back. Just make sure it's cycling hot and cold, just like you're doing with the sink, shower, filtered water faucet. And we're pretty much all just air at this point. So I'm gonna go ahead and just turn everything off. And now we're fully winterized. So give us a call if you have any questions. I do have a little bit more information that I can always help you guys with if you wanna hop on a quick call. But that's a quick rundown of winterizing your van. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks.